Patanjali Yoga Sutra, commentary by Swami Vivekanand, in my voice. In the last video, we have covered the chapter 1, Samadhi Pada. And now we are starting with chapter 2, Sadhana Pada. Concentration, its practice. Sutra number 1. तपः स्वाध्यायेश्वर प्रणिधानानि क्रियायोगः. Meaning: mortification, study and surrendering fruits of work to God are called Kriya Yoga. Those samadhis with which we ended our last chapter are very difficult to attain, so we must take them up slowly. The first step, preliminary step, is called Kriya Yoga. Literally, this means working towards yoga. The organs are the horses, the mind is the reins, the intellect is the charioteer, the soul is the rider, and this body is the chariot. The master of the household, the king, the self of the man is sitting in this chariot. If the horses are very strong and do not obey the reins, if the charioteer, the intellect, does not know how to control the horses, then this chariot will come to grief. But if the organs, the horses, are well controlled, and if the reins, the mind, are well held in the hands of the charioteer, the intellect, the chariot reaches the goal. What is meant therefore by mortification? Holding the reins firmly while guiding this body and mind, not letting the body do anything it likes, but keeping them both in proper control. Study. What is meant by study in this case? Not study of novels or fiction or storybooks, but study of those books which teach the liberation of the soul. Then again, this study does not mean controversial studies at all. The yogi is supposed to have finished his period of controversy. He has had enough of all that and has become satisfied. He only studies to intensify his convictions. Vad and Siddhant. These are the two sorts of scriptural knowledge. Vad, the argumentative, and Siddhant, the decisive. When a man is entirely ignorant, he takes up the first part of this, the argumentative fighting and reasoning, pro and con. And when he has finished that, he takes up the Siddhant, the decisive, arriving at a conclusion. Simply arriving at this conclusion will not do. It must be intensified. Books are infinite in number and time is short. Therefore, this is the secret of knowledge, to take that which is essential. Take that out and try to live up to it. There is an old simile in India that if you place a cup of milk before a Rajhans, swan, with plenty of water in it, he will take all the milk and leave the water. In that way, we should take what is of value in knowledge and leave the dross. All these intellectual gymnastics are necessary at first. We must not go blindly into anything. The yogi has passed the argumentative stage and has come to a conclusion, which is like the rocks immovable. The only thing he now seeks to do is to intensify that conclusion. Do not argue, he says. If one forces arguments upon you, be silent. Do not answer any argument, but go away free, because arguments only disturb the mind. The only thing is to train the intellect, so what is the use of disturbing it anymore? The intellect is but a weak instrument and can give only knowledge limited by the senses. The yogi wants to go beyond the senses. Therefore, the intellect is of no use to him. He is certain of this and therefore is silent and does not argue. Every argument throws his mind out of balance, creates a disturbance in the chitta, and this disturbance is a drawback. These argumentations and searchings of the reason are only on the way. There are much higher things behind them. The whole of life is not for schoolboy fights and debating societies. By surrendering the fruits of work to God is to take ourselves neither credit nor blame, but to give both up to the Lord and be at peace. Sutra number 2. Samadhi bhavanarthah kleshatanu meaning they are for the practice of samadhi and minimizing the pain bearing obstructions. Most of us make our minds like spoiled children, allowing them to do whatever they want. Therefore, it is necessary that there should be constant practice of the previous mortifications in order to gain control of the mind and bring it into subjection. The obstructions to yoga arise from lack of this control and cause us pain. They can only be removed by denying the mind and holding it in check through these various means. Sutra number 3. Avidya smita rag dvesha biniveshaha kleshaha meaning the pain bearing obstructions are ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion, and clinging to life. These are the 5 pains, the fivefold tie that binds us down. Of course, ignorance is the mother of all the rest. She is the only cause of all our misery. What else can make us miserable? The nature of the soul is eternal bliss. What can make it sorrowful except ignorance, hallucination, delusion? All this pain of soul is simply delusion. Sutra number 4. Avidya kshetram uttaresham prasuptatanu meaning ignorance is the productive field of all them that follow, whether they are dormant, attenuated, overpowered, or expanded. Impressions are the cause of these, and these impressions exist in different degrees. There are dormant. You often hear the expression innocent as a baby. Yet in the baby may be the state of a demon or of a god which will come out by and by. In the yogi, these impressions, the samskars left by past actions, are attenuated, that is, in a very fine state, and he can control them and not allow them to become manifest. Overpowered means that sometimes one set of impressions is held down for a while by those that are stronger, but they will come out when that repressing cause is removed. The last state is expanded, when the samskars, having helpful surroundings, have attained to great activity either as good or evil. Sutra number 5. Anitya Shuchi Dukhanatmasu Nitya Shuchi Sukhatma Khyatir Vidya meaning ignorance is taking that which is non-eternal, impure, painful and non-self for the eternal, pure, happy Atma, self. All these various sorts of impression have one source, ignorance. We have first to learn what ignorance is. All of us think that I am the body and not the self, the pure, the effulgent, the ever blissful, and that is ignorance. We think of man and see man as body. This is the great delusion. Sutra number 6. Drigdarshan Shaktyorekaatmatevasmita. Meaning, egoism is the identification of the seer with the instrument of seeing. The seer is really the self, the pure one, the ever holy, the infinite, the immortal. That is the self of man. And what are the instruments? The chitta or mind stuff, the buddhi, determinative faculty, the manas or mind, and the indriyani or sense organs. These are the instruments for him to see the external world. And the identification of the self with the instruments is what is called the ignorance of egoism. We say, I am the mind, I am thought, I am angry, or I am happy. How can we be angry and how can we hate? We should identify ourselves with the self that cannot change. If it is unchangeable, how can it be one moment happy and one moment unhappy? It is formless, infinite, omnipresent. What can change it? Beyond all law, what can affect it? Nothing in the universe can produce an effect on it. Yet, through ignorance, we identify ourselves with the mind stuff and think we feel pleasure or pain. Sutra number 7. Sukhanushairagaha. Meaning, attachment is that which dwells on pleasure. We find pleasure in certain things, and the mind, like a current, flows towards them, and that following the pleasure center, as it were, is attachment. We are never attached to anyone in whom we do not find pleasure. We find pleasure in very queer things sometimes, but the definition is just the same. Wherever we find pleasure, there we are attached. Sutra number 8. Dukhanushai dveshaha. Meaning, aversion is that which dwells on pain. That which gives us pain, we immediately seek to get away from. Sutra number 9. Swarasavahi vidushopi tatha rudo biniveshaha. Meaning, flowing through its own nature and established even in the learned is the clinging to life. This clinging to life you see manifested in every animal, and upon it many attempts have been made to build the theory of a future life, because men like their life so much that they desire a future life also. Of course, it goes without saying that this argument is without much value. But the most curious part of it is that in Western countries, the idea that this clinging to life indicates a possibility of a future life applies only to men, but does not include animals. In India, this clinging to life has been one of the arguments to prove past experience and existence. For instance, if it be true that all our knowledge has come from experience, then it is sure that which we never experienced we cannot imagine or understand. As soon as chickens are hatched, they begin to pick up food. Many times it has been seen where ducks have been hatched by hens that as soon as they come out of the eggs, they flew to water and the mother thought they would be drowned. If experience be the only source of knowledge, where did these chickens learn to pick up food, or the ducklings that the water was their natural element? If you say it is instinct, it means nothing. It is simply giving it a word but is no explanation. What is this instinct? We have many instincts in ourselves. For instance, most of you ladies play the piano and remember when you first learned how carefully you had to put your fingers on the black and the white keys, one after the other. But now, after long years of practice, you can talk with your friends and your hand goes on just the same. It has become instinct. It becomes automatic. But so far as we know, all the cases which we now regard as automatic are degenerated reason. In the language of yogi, instinct is involved reason. Discrimination becomes involved and gets to be automatic samskars. Therefore, it is perfectly logical to think that all we call instinct in this world is simply involved reason. As reason cannot come without experience, all instinct is therefore the result of past experience. Chickens fear the hawk and ducklings love the water, and these are both the result of past experience. Then the question is whether that experience belongs to a particular soul or to the body simply. Whether this experience which comes to the duck is the duck's forefathers' experience or the duck's own experience. Modern scientific men hold that it belongs to the body, but the yogis hold that it is the experience of the soul transmitted through the body. This is called the theory of reincarnation. We have seen that all our knowledge, whether we call it perception or reason or instinct, must come through that one channel called experience. And all that we now call instinct is the result of past experience degenerated into instinct, and that instinct regenerates into reason again. So on throughout the universe, and upon this has been built one of the chief arguments of reincarnation in India. The recurring experiences of various fears in course of time produce this clinging to life. That is why the child is instinctively afraid, because the past experience of pain is there. Even in the most learned men who know that this body will go and who say, never mind, we have hundreds of bodies, the soul cannot die, even in them, with all their intellectual conviction, we still find this clinging to life. What is this clinging to life? We have seen that it has become instinctive. In the psychological language of yoga, it has become samskars. The samskars, fine and hidden, are sleeping in the chitta. All these past experiences of death, all that which we call instinct, is experience becomes subconscious. It lives in the chitta and is not inactive, but is working underneath. These chitta vrittis, these mind waves, which are gross, we can appreciate and feel. They can be more easily controlled, but what about these finer instincts? How can they be controlled? When I am angry, my whole mind has become a huge wave of anger. Feel it, see it, handle it, can easily manipulate it, can fight with it. But I shall not succeed perfectly in the fight until I can get down below. A man says something very harsh to me, and I begin to feel that I am getting heated. And he goes on until I am perfectly angry and forget myself, identify myself with anger. When he first began to abuse me, I still thought I am going to be angry. Anger was one thing and I was another. But when I became angry, I was anger. These feelings have to be controlled in the germ, the root, in their fine forms, before even we have become conscious that they are acting on us. With the vast majority of mankind, the fine states of these passions are not even known. The state when they are slowly coming from beneath consciousness. When a bubble is rising from the bottom of the lake, we do not see it. Or even when it is nearly come to the surface, it is only when it bursts and makes a ripple that we know it is there. We shall only be successful in grappling with the waves when we can get hold of them in their fine causes. And until you can get hold of them and subdue them before any become gross, there is no hope of conquering any passion perfectly. To control our passions, we have to control them at their very roots. Then alone shall we be able to burn out their very seed. As fried seeds thrown into the ground will never come up, so these passions will never arise. Sutra number 10. Te prati prasavaheyaha sukshmaha. Meaning, they, to be rejected by opposite modifications, are fine. How are these fine samskars to be controlled? We have to begin with the big waves and come down and down. For instance, when a big wave of anger has come into the mind, how are we to control that? Just by raising a big opposing wave. Think of love. Sometimes a mother is very angry with her husband, and while in that state, the baby comes in and she kisses the baby. The old wave dies out and a new wave arises, love for the child. That suppresses the other one. Love is opposite to anger. So we find that by raising the opposite waves, we can conquer those which we want to reject. Then, if we can raise in our fine nature those fine opposing waves, they will check the fine working of anger beneath the conscious surface. We have seen now that all these instinctive actions first began as conscious actions and became finer and finer. So, if good waves in the conscious chitta be constantly raised, they will go down, become subtle, and oppose the samskar forms of evil thoughts. Sutra number 11. Dhyan heyastad vritayah. Meaning, by meditation, their modifications are to be rejected. Meditation is one of the great means of controlling the rising of these big waves. By meditation, you can make the mind subdue these waves. And if you go on practicing meditation for days and months and years until it has become a habit, until it will come in spite of yourself, anger and hatred will be controlled and checked. Sutra number 12. क्लेशमूलः कर्माशयो दृष्टादृष्टजन्मवेदनीयः. Meaning, the receptacle of works has its root in these pain-bearing obstructions and their experience in this visible life or in the unseen life. By the receptacle of works is meant the sum total of these samskars. Whatever work we do, the mind is thrown into a wave, and after the work is finished, we think the wave is gone. No, it has only become fine, but it is still there. When we try to remember the thing, it comes up again and becomes a wave. So it was there. If it had not been there would not have been memory. So every action, every thought, good or bad, just goes down and becomes fine and is there stored up. They are called pain-bearing obstructions, both happy and unhappy thoughts, because according to the yogis, both in the long run bring pain. All happiness which comes from the senses will eventually bring pain. All enjoyment will make us thirst for more, and that brings pain as its result. There is no limit to man's desires. He goes on desiring, and when he comes to a point where desire cannot be fulfilled, the result is pain. Therefore, the yogis regard the sum total of the impressions, good or evil, as pain bearing obstructions. They obstruct the way to freedom of the soul. It is the same with the samskars, the fine roots of all our works. They are the causes which will again bring effects, either in this life or in the lives to come. In exceptional cases, when these samskars are very strong, they bear fruit quickly. Exceptional acts of wickedness or of goodness bring their fruits in this life. The yogis even hold that men who are able to acquire a tremendous power of good samskars do not have to die, but even in this life can change their bodies into god bodies. There are several cases mentioned by the yogis in their books. These men change the very material of their bodies, they rearrange the molecules in such fashion that they have no more sickness and what we call death does not come to them. Why should not this be? The physiological meaning of food is assimilation of energy from the sun. This energy has reached the plant is eaten by an animal, and the animal by us. The science of it is that we take so much energy from the sun and make it part of ourselves. That being the case, why should there be only one way of assimilating energy? The plant's way is not the same as ours. The earth's process of assimilating energy differs from our own. But all assimilate energy in some form or the other. The yogis say that they are able to assimilate energy by the power of the mind alone, that they can draw in as much as they desire without recourse to the ordinary methods. As a spider makes his net out of his own substance and becomes bound in his net and cannot go anywhere except along the lines of that net, so we have projected out of our own substance this network called nerves, and we cannot work except through the channels of those nerves. The yogi says we need not be bound by that. Similarly, we can send electricity to any part of the world, but we have to send it by means of wires. Nature can send a vast mass of electricity without any wires at all. Why cannot we do the same? We can send mental electricity. What we call mind is very much the same as electricity. It is clear that this nerve fluid has some amount of electricity because it is polarized and it answers all electrical directions. We can only send our electricity through these nerve channels. Why not send the mental electricity without this aid? The yogi says it is perfectly possible and practicable, and that when you can do that, you will work all over the universe. You will be able to work with anybody, anywhere, without the help of any nervous system. When the soul is acting through these channels, we say a man is living, and when those channels die, the man is said to be dead. But when a man is able to act either with or without these channels, birth and death will have no meaning for him. All the bodies in the universe are made up of tanmatras, and it is only in the arrangement of them that there comes a difference. If you are the arranger, you can arrange that body in one way or another. Who makes up this body but you? Who eats the food? If another ate the food for you, you would not live long. Who makes the blood out of it? You certainly. Who assimilates the blood and sends it through the veins? You. Who creates the nerves and makes all the muscles? You are the manufacturer out of your own substance. You are the manufacturer of the body and you live in it. Only we have lost the knowledge of how to make it. We have become automatic, degenerate. We have forgotten the process of manufacture. So, what we do automatically has again to be regulated. We are the creators and we have to regulate that creation. And as soon as we can do that, we shall be able to manufacture just as we like. And then we shall have neither birth nor death, disease, or anything. Sutra number 13. Satimule tadvipako jatyayurbogaha. Meaning, the root being there, the fruition comes in the form of species, life, and expression of pleasure and pain. The roots, the causes, the samskars being there, they again manifest and form the effects. The cause dying down becomes the effect, and the effect becomes more subtle and becomes the cause of the next effect. The tree bears a seed and becomes the cause of the next tree, and so on. All our works now are the effects of past samskars. Again, these samskars become the cause of future actions, and thus we go on. So, this aphorism says that the cause being there, the fruit must come in the form of species. One will be a man, another an angel, another an animal, another a demon. Then there are different effects in life. One man will live 50 years, another 100, and another dies in 2 years and never attains maturity. All these differences in life are regulated by these past actions. One man is born, as it were, for pleasure. If he buries himself in a forest, pleasure will follow him there. Another man, wherever he goes, pain follows him. Everything becomes painful. It is all the result of their own past. According to the philosophy of the yogis, all virtuous actions bring pleasure and all vicious actions bring pain. Any man who does wicked deeds is sure to reap the fruit of them in the form of pain. Sutra number 14. Tehlad paritap falaha punya punya hetutvat. Meaning, they bear fruit as pleasure or pain caused by virtue or vice. Sutra number 15. परिणाम ताप संस्कार दुःखैर्गुण वृत्ति विरोधाच दुःखमेव सर्वं विवेकिनः. Meaning, to the discriminating, all is as it were, painful on the account of everything bringing pain, either in the consequences or in apprehension, or in attitude caused by impressions, also on account of counteraction of qualities. The yogis say that the man who has discriminating powers, the man of good sense, sees through all these various things, which are called pleasure and pain, and knows that they are always equally distributed, and that one follows the other and melts into the other. He sees that men are following an ignis fatuus all their lives and never succeed in fulfilling their desires. There was never a love in this world which did not know decay. The great King Yudhishthir once said that the most wonderful thing in life is that every moment we see people dying around us, and yet we think we shall never die. Surrounded by fools on every side, we think we are the only exceptions, the only learned man. Surrounded by all sorts of experiences of fickleness, we think our love is the only lasting love. How can that be? Even love is selfish. And the yogi says that in the end we shall find that even the love of husbands and wives and children and friends slowly decays. Decadence seizes everything in this life. It is only when everything, even love, fails that with a flash man finds out how vain, how dreamlike is this world. Then he catches a glimpse of vairagyam, renunciation, catches a glimpse of the beyond. It is only by giving up this world that the other comes, never through building onto this one. Never yet was there a great soul who had not to reject sense pleasures and enjoyments to become such. The cause of misery is the clash between different forces of nature, one dragging one way and another dragging another, rendering permanent happiness impossible. Sutra number 16. Heyam dukkham anagatam. Meaning, the misery which is not yet come is to be avoided. Some karma we have worked out already, some we are working out now in the present, and some is waiting to bear the fruit in the future. That which we have worked out already is past and gone. That which we are experiencing now, we will have to work out. And it is only that which is waiting to bear fruit in the future that we can conquer and control. So, all our forces should be directed towards the control of that karma which has not yet borne fruit. That is meant in the previous aphorism when Patanjali says that these various samskars are to be controlled by counteracting waves. Sutra number 17. Drashtradrishyayoh sanyogo heya hetuhu. Meaning, the cause of that which is to be avoided is the junction of the seer and the seen. Who is the seer? The self of man, the Purusa. What is the seen? The whole of nature, beginning with the mind down to gross matter. All this pleasure and pain arises from the junction between this Purusa and the mind. The Purusa, you must remember, according to this philosophy, is pure. It is when it is joined to nature and by reflection that it appears to feel either pleasure or pain. Sutra number 18. Prakasha kriya sthitiशीலம் bhutendriyatmakam bhogapavargartham drishyam. Meaning, the experienced is composed of elements and organs, is of the nature of illumination, action, and inertia, and is for the purpose of experience and release of the experiencer. The experienced, that is nature, is composed of elements and organs. The elements gross and fine which compose the whole of nature and the organs of senses, mind, etc., and is of the nature of illumination, action, and inertia. These are what in Sanskrit are called sattva, illumination, rajas, action, and tamas, darkness. Each is for the purpose of experience and release. What is the purpose of the whole of nature? That the Purusa may gain experience. The Purusa has, as it were, forgotten its mighty, godly nature. There is a story that the king of the gods, Indra, once became a pig. Wallowing in mire, he had a she pig and a lot of baby pigs and was very happy. Then some other angels saw his plight and came to him and told him, "You are the king of the gods. You have all the gods' command. Why are you here?" But Indra said, "Let me be. I am all right here. I do not care for the heavens while I have this saw and these little pigs." The poor gods were at their wits' end what to do. After a time, they decided to slowly come and slay one of the little pigs and then another until they had slain all the pigs and the saw too. When all were dead, Indra began to weep and mourn. Then the gods ripped his pig body open and he came out of it and began to laugh when he realized what a hideous dream he had. He, the king of gods, to have become a pig and to think that the pig life was the only life. Not only so, but to have wanted the whole universe to come into the pig life. The Purusa, when it identifies itself with nature, forgets that it is pure and infinite. The Purusa does not live, it is life itself. It does not exist, it is existence itself. The soul does not know, it is knowledge itself. It is an entire mistake to say that the soul lives or knows or loves. Love and existence are not the qualities of the Purusa, but its essence. When they get reflected upon something, you may call them the qualities of that something, but they are not the qualities of Purusa, but the essence of this great Atma, this infinite being, without birth or death, who is established in his own glory, but appears as if become degenerate until if you approach to tell him you are not a pig, he begins to squeal and bite. Thus, with us, all in this Maya, this dream world, where it is all misery, weeping, and crying, where a few golden balls are rolled and the world scrambles after them. You are never bound by laws. Nature never had a bond for you. That is what the yogis tells you. Have patience to learn it. And the yogi shows how, by junction with this nature and identifying itself with the mind and the world, the Purusa thinks itself miserable. Then the yogi goes on to show that the way out is through experience. You have to get all this experience, but finish it quickly. We have placed ourselves in this net and will have to get out. We have got ourselves caught in this trap and we will have to work out our freedom. So get this experience of husbands and wives and friends and little loves, and you will get through them safely if you never forget what you really are. Never forget this is only a momentary state and that we have to pass through it. Experience is the one great teacher. Experiences of pleasure and pain, but know they are only experiences and will all lead step by step to that state when all these things will become small and the Purusa will be so great that this whole universe will be as a drop in the ocean and will fall off by its own nothingness. We have to go through these experiences, but let us never forget the ideal. Sutra number 19. Vishesha Vishesh Linga Matra Lingani Gud Parvani. Meaning, the states of the qualities are the defined, the undefined, the indicated only, and the signless. The system of yoga is built entirely on the philosophy of the Sankhyas. As I told you in some of the previous lectures, and here again I will remind you of the cosmology of Sankhya philosophy. According to the Sankhyas, nature is both the material and the efficient cause of this universe. In this nature, there are three sorts of materials: the sattva, the rajas, and the tamas. The tamas material is all that is dark, all that is ignorant and heavy, and the rajas is activity. The sattva is calmness, light. When nature is in the state before creation, it is called by them avyaktam, undefined or indiscrete. That is, in which there is no distinction of form or name, a state in which these three materials are held in perfect balance. then the balance is disturbed. These different materials begin to mingle in various fashions, and the result is this universe. In every man also, these three materials exist. When the sattva material prevails, knowledge comes. When the rajas material prevails, activity comes. And when the tamas material prevails, darkness comes and lassitude, idleness, ignorance. According to the Sankhya theory, the highest manifestation of this nature, consisting of these three materials, is what they call Mahat or intelligence, universal intelligence. And each human mind is a part of that cosmic intelligence. Then out of this Mahat comes the mind. In the Sankhya psychology, there is a sharp distinction between manas, the mind function, and the function of the buddhi intellect. The mind function is simply to collect and carry impressions and present them to the buddhi, the individual mahat, and the buddhi determined upon it. So out of mahat comes mind, and out of mind comes fine material, and this fine material combines and becomes the gross material outside, the external universe. The claim of the Sankhya philosophy is that beginning with the intellect and coming down to a block of stone, all has come out of the same thing, only as finer or grosser states of existence. The buddhi is the finest state of existence of the materials, and then comes ahankar, egoism, and next to the mind comes fine material, which they call tanmatras, which cannot be seen but which are inferred. These tanmatras combine and become grosser and finally produce this universe. The finer is the cause and the grosser is the effect. It begins with the buddhi, which is the finest material, and goes on becoming grosser and grosser until it becomes this universe. According to the Sankhya philosophy, beyond the whole of this nature is the Purusa, which is not material at all. Purusa is not at all similar to anything else, either buddhi or mind or the tanmatras or the gross material. It is not akin to any one of these. It is entirely separate, entirely different in its nature. And from this, they argue that the Purusa must be immortal because it is not the result of combination. That which is not the result of combination cannot die. These Purusas or souls are infinite in number. Now we shall understand the aphorism that the states of the qualities are defined, undefined, and signless. By the defined is meant the gross elements which we can sense. By the undefined is meant the very fine materials, the tanmatras which cannot be sensed by ordinary men. If you practice yoga, however, says Patanjali, after a while your perception will become so fine that you will actually see tanmatras. For instance, you have heard how every man has a certain light about him. Every living being is emanating a certain light, and this, he says, can be seen by the yogi. We do not all see it, but we are all throwing out these tanmatras, just as a flower is continuously emanating these tanmatras, which enable us to smell it. Every day of our lives, we are throwing out a mass of good or evil, and everywhere we go, the atmosphere is full of these materials. And that is how there came to the human mind, even unconsciously, the idea of building temples and churches. Why should men build churches in which to worship God? Why not worship Him anywhere? Even if he did not know the reason, man found that the place where people worshipped God became full of good tanmatras. Every day people go there, and the more they go, the holier they get, and the holier that place becomes. If any man who has not much sattva in him goes there, the place will influence him and arouse his sattva quality. Here, therefore, is the significance of all temples and holy places. But you must remember that their holiness depends on holy people congregating there. The difficulty with mankind is that they forget the original meaning and put the cart before the horse. It was men who made these places holy, and then the effect became the cause and made men holy. If the wicked only were to go there, it would become as bad as any other place. It is not the building, but the people that make a church, and that is what we always forget. That is why sages and holy persons who have so much of this sattva quality are emanating so much of it around them and exerting a tremendous influence day and night on their surroundings. A man may become so pure that his purity will become tangible, as it were. The body has become pure, and in an intensely physical sense, no figurative idea, no poetic language, it emanates that purity wherever it goes. Whosoever comes in contact with that man becomes pure. Next, the indicated only means the buddhi, the intellect. The indicated only is the first manifestation of nature. From it, all other manifestations proceed. The last is signless. Here there seems to be a great fight between modern science and all religion. Every religion has this idea that this universe comes out of intelligence. Only some religions were more philosophical and used scientific language. The very theory of God, taking it in its psychological significance and apart from all ideas of personal God, is that intelligence is first in order of creation and that out of intelligence comes what we call gross matter. Modern philosophers say that intelligence is the last to come. They say the unintelligent things slowly evolve into animals and from animals slowly evolve into men. They claim that instead of everything coming out of intelligence, intelligence is itself the last to come. Both the religious and scientific statement, though seemingly directly opposed to each other, are true. Take an infinite series A, B, A, B, A, B, etc. The question is which is first, A or B? If you take the series as AB, you will say that A is first. But if you take it as BA, you will say that B is first. It depends on the way you are looking at it. Intelligence evolves and becomes the gross material, and this again evolves as intelligence and again evolves as matter once more. The Sankhyas and all religionists put intelligence first, and the series becomes intelligence then matter, intelligence then matter. The scientific man puts his finger on matter and say matter then intelligence, matter then intelligence. But they are both indicating the same chain. Indian philosophy, however, goes beyond both intelligence and matter and finds a purusa or self which is beyond all intelligence and of which intelligence is but the borrowed light. Sutra number 20. Drashta drishimatrah shuddhoapi pratyyanupashyah. Meaning, the seer is intelligence only, and though pure, seen through the coloring of the intellect. This is again Sankhya philosophy. We have seen from this philosophy that from the lowest form up to intelligence, all is nature. But beyond nature are purusas, souls, and these have no qualities. Then, how does the soul appear to be happy or unhappy? By reflection. Just as if the piece of pure crystal be put on a table and a red flower be put near it, the crystal appears to be red. So, all these appearances of happiness or unhappiness are but reflections. The soul itself has no sort of coloring. The soul is separate from nature. The nature is one thing, soul another, eternally separate. The Sankhya's say that intelligence is a compound, that it grows and wanes, that it changes just as the body changes, and that its nature is nearly the same as that of the body. As a fingernail is to the body, so is body to intelligence. The nail is a part of the body, but it can be pared off hundred of times, and the body will still last. Similarly, the intelligence lasts. While this body can be pared off, thrown off, yet intelligence cannot be immortal because it changes, growing and waning. Anything that changes cannot be immortal. Certainly, intelligence is manufactured, and that very fact shows us that there must be something beyond that, because it cannot be free. Everything connected with matter is in nature, and therefore bound forever. Who is free? That free one must certainly be beyond cause and effect. If you say that the idea of freedom is a delusion, I will say that the idea of bondage is also a delusion. Two facts come into our consciousness and stand or fall by each other. One is that we are bound. If we want to go through a wall and our head bumps against that wall, we are limited by that wall. At the same time, we find will and think we can direct our will everywhere. At every step, these contradictory ideas are coming to us. We have to believe that we are free. Yet at every moment, we find we are not free. If one idea is a delusion, the other is also a delusion, because both stand upon the same basis, consciousness. The yogi says both are true, that we are bound so far as intelligence goes, that we are free as far as the soul is concerned. It is the real nature of man, the soul, the Purusa, which is beyond all law of causation. Its freedom is percolating through layers and layers of matter, in various forms of intelligence and mind, and all these things. It is its light which is shining through all. Intelligence has no light of its own. Each organ has a particular center in the brain. It is not that all the organs have one center. Each organ is separate. Why do all these perceptions harmonize, and where do they get their unity? If it were in the brain, there would be one center only for the eyes, nose, ears, while we know for certain that there are different centers for each. But a man can see and hear at the same time. So a unity must be back of intelligence. Intelligence is eternally connected with the brain, but behind even intelligence stands the Purusa, the unit, where all these different sensations and perceptions join and become one. Soul itself is the center where all the different organs converge and become unified. And that soul is free. And it is its freedom and tells you every moment that you are free. But you mistake and mingle that freedom every moment with intelligence and mind. You try to attribute that freedom to the intelligence and immediately find that intelligence is not free. You attribute that freedom to the body, and immediately nature tells you that you are again mistaken. That is why there is mingled sense of freedom and bondage at the same time. The yogi analyzes both what is free and what is bound, and his ignorance vanishes. He finds that the Purusa is free is the essence of that knowledge, which coming through the buddhi becomes intelligence and as such is bound. Sutra number 21. Tadartha eva drishya satma. Meaning, the nature of the experience is for him. Nature has no light of its own. As long as the Purusa is present in it, it appears light. But the light is borrowed. Just as the moon's light is reflected, all the manifestations of nature are caused by this nature itself, according to the yogis. But nature has no purpose in view except to free the Purusa. Sutra number 22. कृतार्थं प्रति नष्टमप्यनष्टं तदन्यसाधारणत्वात्. Meaning, though destroyed for him whose goal has been gained, yet is not destroyed, being common to others. The whole idea of this nature is to make the soul know that it is entirely separate from nature. And when the soul knows this, nature has no more attractions for it. But the whole of nature vanishes only for that man who has become free. There will always remain an infinite number of others for whom nature will go on working. Sutra number 23. Swaswami Shaktyoha Swarupopalabdhi Hetuhu Sanyogah. Meaning, junction is the cause of the realization of the nature of both the powers, the experienced and its Lord. According to this aphorism, when this soul comes into conjunction with nature, both the power of the soul and the power of nature become manifest in this conjunction, and all these manifestations are thrown out. Ignorance is the cause of this conjunction. We see every day that the cause of our pain or pleasure is always our joining ourselves with the body. If I were perfectly certain that I am not this body, I should take no notice of heat and cold or anything of the kind. This body is a combination. It is only a fiction to say that I have one body, you another, and the sun another. The whole universe is one ocean of matter, and you are the name of a little particle, and I of another, and the sun of another. We know that this matter is continuously changing. What is forming the sun one day, the next day may form the matter of our bodies. Sutra number 24. Tasya hetur vidya. Meaning, ignorance is its cause. Through ignorance, we have joined ourselves with a particular body and thus opened ourselves to misery. The idea of body is a simple superstition. It is superstition that makes us happy or unhappy. It is superstition caused by ignorance that makes us feel heat and cold, pain and pleasure. It is our business to rise above this superstition, and the yogi shows us how we can do this. It has been demonstrated that under certain mental conditions, a man may be burned, yet while that condition lasts, he will feel no pain. The difficulty is that this sudden upheaval of the mind comes like a whirlwind one minute and goes away the next. If, however, we attain it scientifically through yoga, we shall permanently attain to that separation of self from the body. Sutra number 25. Tadbhavat sanyoga bhavo hanam tadrisheha kaivalyam. Meaning, there being absence of that ignorance, there is absence of junction, which is the thing to be avoided, that is the independence of the seer. According to this yoga philosophy, It is through ignorance that the soul has been joined with nature, and the idea is to get rid of nature's control over us. That is the goal of all religions. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or by philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. The yogi tries to reach this goal through psychic control. Until we can free ourselves from nature, we are slaves. As she dictates, so we must go. The yogi claims that he who controls mind controls matter also. The internal nature is much higher than external and much more difficult to grapple with, much more difficult to control. Therefore, he who has conquered the internal nature controls the whole universe. It becomes his servant. Raj Yoga propounds the methods of gaining this control. Higher forces than we know in physical nature will have to be subdued. This body is just the external crust of the mind. They are not two different things. They are just as the oyster and its shell. They are but two aspects of one thing. The internal substance of the oyster is taking up matter from outside and manufacturing the shell. In the same way, these internal fine forces, which are called mind, take up gross matter from outside and from that manufacture this external shell or body. If then we have control of the internal, it is very easy to have control of the external. Then again, these forces are not different. It is not that some forces are physical and some mental. The physical forces are but the gross manifestations of the fine forces, just as the physical world is but the gross manifestation of the fine world. Sutra number 26. Vivek Khyati Ravi Plava. Meaning, the means of destruction of ignorance is unbroken practice of discrimination. This is the real goal of practice, discrimination between the real and unreal. Knowing that the Purusa is not nature, that it is neither matter nor mind, and that because it is not nature, it cannot possibly change. It is only nature which changes, combining and recombining, dissolving continually. When through constant practice we begin to discriminate, ignorance will vanish and the Purusa will begin to shine in its real nature, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Sutra number 27. Tasya saptudha pranta bhumihi pragya. Meaning, his knowledge is of the sevenfold highest ground. When this knowledge comes, it will come as it were in 7 grades, one after the other. And when one of these has begun, we may know that we are getting knowledge. The first to appear will be that we have known what is to be known. The mind will cease to be dissatisfied. While we are aware of thirsting after knowledge, we begin to seek here and there. Wherever we think we can get some truth, and failing to find it, we become dissatisfied and seek in a fresh direction. All search is vain until we begin to perceive that knowledge within ourselves, that no one can help us. that we must help ourselves. When we begin to practice the power of discrimination, the first sign that we are getting near truth will be that dissatisfied state will vanish. We shall feel quite sure that we have found the truth and that it cannot be anything else but the truth. Then we may know that the sun is rising, that the morning is breaking for us, and taking courage, we must persevere until the goal is reached. The second grade will be that all pains will be gone. It will be impossible for anything in the universe, physical, mental, or spiritual, to give us pain. The third will be that we shall get full knowledge that omniscience will be ours. Next will come what is called freedom of chitta. We shall realize that all these difficulties and struggles have fallen off from us. All these vacillations of the mind, when the mind cannot be controlled, have fallen down just as a stone falls from the mountain top into the valley and never comes up again. The next will be that this chitta itself will realize that it melts away into its causes whenever we so desire. Lastly, we shall find that we are established in ourselves, that we have been alone throughout the universe. Neither body nor mind was ever connected with us, much less joined to us. They were working their own way, and we, through ignorance, joined ourselves to them. But we have been alone, omnipotent, omnipresent, ever blessed. Our own self was so pure and perfect that we required none else. We required none else to make us happy, for we are happiness itself. We shall find that this knowledge does not depend on anything else. Throughout the universe, there can be nothing that will not become effulgent before our knowledge. This will be the last state, and the yogi will become peaceful and calm, never to feel any more pain, never to be again deluded, never to touch misery. He knows he is ever blessed, ever perfect, almighty. Sutra number 28. योगांगानुष्ठानाद शुद्धिशये ज्ञान दीप्तिरा विवेक ख्याते है. Meaning, by the practice of different parts of yoga, the impurities being destroyed, knowledge becomes effulgent up to discrimination. Now comes the practical knowledge. What we have just been speaking about is much higher. It is way above our heads, but it is the ideal. It is first necessary to obtain physical and mental control. Then the realization will become steady in that ideal. The ideal being known, what remains is to practice the method of reaching it. Sutra number 29. यम नियम आसन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधयोष्टांगानि. Meaning, यम नियम आसन प्राणायाम pratyahar dharana dhyan samadhi are the limbs of yoga. Sutra number 30. Ahimsa satyasteya brahmacharya parigraha yamaha. Meaning, non-killing, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-receiving are called yam. A man who wants to be a perfect yogi must give up the sex idea. The soul has no sex. Why should it degrade itself with sex ideas? Later we shall understand better why these ideas must be given up. Receiving is just as bad as stealing. receiving gifts from others. Whoever receives gifts, his mind is acted on by the mind of the giver, so that the man who receives gifts becomes degenerated. Receiving gifts destroys the independence of the mind and makes us mere slaves. Therefore, receive nothing. Sutra number 31. जाति देश काल समयानवच्छिन्नाः सार्वभौम महाव्रतम्. Meaning, these, unbroken by time, place, purpose, and caste, are universal great vows. These practices, non killing, non stealing, chastity, and non receiving, are to be practiced by every man, woman, and child, by every soul, irrespective of nation, country, or position. Sutra number 32. शौच संतोष तपः स्वाध्यायेश्वर प्रणिधानानि नियमः. Meaning, internal and external purification, contentment, mortification, study and worship of God are the niyams. External purification is keeping the body pure. A dirty man will never become a yogi. There must be internal purification also. That is obtained by the first named virtues. Of course, internal purity is of greater value than external, but both are necessary, and external purity without internal is of no good. Sutra number 33. वितर्क बांधने प्रतिपक्ष भावनम. Meaning, to obstruct thoughts which are inimical to yoga, contrary thoughts will be brought. This is the way to practice all these virtues that have been stated, by holding thoughts of an opposite character in the mind. When the idea of stealing comes, non-stealing should be thought of. When the idea of receiving gifts comes, replace it by contrary thought. Sutra number 34. वितर्काहिंसादयः कृतिकारितानुमोदिता लोभ क्रोध मोह पूर्वका मृदुमध्यादिमात्रा दुःखाज्ञानान्तफला इति प्रतिपक्ष भावनम. Meaning, the obstructions to yoga are killing, etc., whether committed, caused, or approved, either through avarice or anger or ignorance, whether slight, middling, or great, and result is innumerable ignorances and miseries. This is the method of thinking the contrary. If I tell a lie or cause another to tell a lie or approve of another doing so, it is equally sinful. If it is a very mild lie, it is still a lie. Every vicious thought will rebound. Every thought of hatred which you have thought in a cave even is stored up and will one day come back to you with tremendous power in the form of some misery here. If you project all sorts of hatred and jealousy, they will rebound on you with compound interest. No power can avert them. When once you have put them in motion, you will have to bear them. Remembering this will prevent you from doing wicked things. Sutra number 35. Ahimsa pratisthayam tasya nidhau vairatyagah. Meaning, non-killing being established, in his presence all amenities cease in others. If a man gets the idea of non-injuring others, before him even animals which are by nature ferocious will become peaceful. The tiger and the lamb will play together before that yogi and will not hurt each other. When you have come to that state, then alone you will understand that you have become firmly established in non injuring. Sutra number 36. Satya Pratisthayam Kriya Falashayatvam. Meaning, by the establishment of truthfulness, the yogi gets the power of attaining for himself and others the fruits of work without the works. When this power of truth will be established with you, then even in dream you will never tell an untruth in thought, word, or deed. Whatever you say will be truth. You may say to a man, "Be blessed," and that man will be blessed. If a man is diseased and you say to him, "Be thou cured," he will be cured immediately. Sutra number 37. Asteya Pratisthayam Sarvaratnopasthanam. Meaning, by the establishment of non stealing, all wealth comes to the yogi. The more you fly from nature, the more she follows you. And if you do not care for her at all, she becomes your slave. Sutra number 38. Brahmacharya Pratisthayam Viryalabha. Meaning, by the establishment of continence, energy is gained. The chaste brain has tremendous energy, gigantic willpower. Without that, there can be no mental strength. All men of gigantic brains are very continent. It gives wonderful control over mankind. Leaders of men have been very continent, and this is what gave them power. Therefore, the yogi must be continent. Sutra number 39. Aparigraha sthairye janma kanthata sambodha. Meaning, when he is fixed in non receiving, he gets the memory of past life. When the yogi does not receive presents from others, he does not become beholden to others, but becomes independent and free. And his mind becomes pure because with every gift he receives, all the evils of the giver, and they come and lay coating after coating on his mind until it is hidden under all sorts of coverings of evil. If he does not receive, the mind becomes pure, and the first thing it gets is the memory of past life. Then alone the yogi becomes perfectly fixed in his ideal, because he sees that he has been coming and going so many times, and he becomes determined that this time he will be free, that he will no more come and go and be the slave of nature. Sutra number 40. Shauchat Swang Jugupsa Parer Sansargah. Meaning, internal and external cleanliness being established arises disgust for one's own body and non intercourse with other bodies. When there is real purification of the body, external and internal, there arises neglect of the body, and all this idea of keeping it nice will vanish. What the world will call a very common face, he will call heavenly, if that spirit shines behind it. This thirst after body is the great bane of human life. So, when this purity is established, the first sign will be that you do not care to think you are a body. It is only when purity comes that we get rid of this body idea. Sutra number 41. Sattva Shuddhi Saumanasya Kangrendriya Jayatma Darshan Yogyatwani Cha. Meaning, there also arises purification of the sattva, cheerfulness of the mind, concentration, conquest of the organs, and fitness for the realization of the self. By this practice, the sattva material will prevail and the mind will become concentrated and cheerful. The first sign that you are become religious is that you are becoming cheerful. When a man is gloomy, that may be dyspepsia, but it is not religion. A pleasurable feeling is the nature of the sattva. Everything is pleasurable to sattvic man. And when this comes, know that you are progressing in yoga. All pain is caused by tamas. So you must get rid of that. Moroseness is one of the results of tamas. The strong, well knit, the young, the healthy, the daring alone are fit to be yogis. To the yogi, everything is bliss. Every human face that he sees brings cheerfulness to him. That is the sign of a virtuous man. Misery is caused by sin and by no other cause. What business have you with clouded faces? It is terrible. If you have a clouded face, do not go out that day. Shut yourself up in your room. What right have you to carry this disease out into the world? When your mind has become controlled, you will have control over the whole body. Instead of being a slave to the machine will be your slave. Instead of this machine being able to drag the soul down, it will be its greatest helpmate. Sutra number 42. Santoshaad anuttamah sukhalabhah. Meaning, from contentment comes superlative happiness. Sutra number 43. कायेन्द्रिय सिद्धिर्शुद्धिशयात् tapasah. Meaning, the result of mortification is bringing powers to the organs and the body by destroying the impurity. The results of mortification are seen immediately, sometimes by heightened powers of vision and so on, hearing things at a distance, etc. Sutra number 44. Swadhyayad Ishtadevata Samprayogah. Meaning, by repetition of the mantram comes the realization of the intended deity. The higher the beings that you want to get, the harder is the practice. Sutra number 45. Samadhi Siddhirishwar Pranidhanat. Meaning, by sacrificing all to Ishwar comes Samadhi. By resignation to the Lord, Samadhi becomes perfect. Sutra number 46. Sthir Sukham Asanam. Meaning, posture is that which is firm and pleasant. Now comes asana, posture. Until you can get a firm seat, you cannot practice the breathing and other exercises. The seat being firm means that you do not feel the body at all. Then alone it has become firm. But in the ordinary way, you will find that as soon as you sit for a few minutes, all sorts of disturbances come into the body. But when you have got beyond the idea of a concrete body, you will lose all sense of the body. You will feel neither pleasure nor pain. And you take your body up again, it will feel so rested. It is the only perfect rest that you can give to the body. When you have succeeded in conquering the body and keeping it firm, your practice will remain firm. But while you are disturbed by the body, your nerves become disturbed and you cannot concentrate the mind. We can make the seat firm by thinking of the infinite. We cannot think of the absolute infinite, but we can think of the infinite sky. Sutra number 47. प्रयत्नशैथिल्यानन्तसमापत्तिभ्याम्. Meaning, by slight effort and meditating on the unlimited, posture becomes firm and pleasant. Light and darkness, pleasure and pain will not then disturb you. Sutra number 48. Tato dvandhanabhighatah. Meaning, seat being conquered, the dualities do not obstruct. The dualities are good and bad, heat and cold, and all the pairs of opposites. Sutra number 49. तस्मिन् सति श्वास प्रश्वासयोर्गतिविच्छेदः प्राणायामः. Meaning, controlling the motion of the exhalation and the inhalation follows after this. When the posture has been conquered, then this motion is to be broken and controlled. And thus we come to pranayama, the controlling of the vital forces of the body. Prana is not breath, though it is usually so translated. It is the sum total of the cosmic energy. It is the energy that is in each body, and its most apparent manifestation is the motion of the lungs. This motion is caused by prana, drawing in the breath, and is what we seek to control in pranayama. We begin by controlling the breath as the easiest way of getting control of the prana. Sutra number 50. बाह्याभ्यन्तरस्तम्भः वृत्तिः देशकालसंज्ञाभिः परिदृष्टो दीर्घसूक्ष्मः. Meaning, its modifications are either external or internal, or motionless, regulated by place, time, and number, either long or short. The three sorts of motion of this pranayama are: one by which we draw the breath in, another by which we throw it out, and the third action is when the breath is held in the lungs or stopped from entering the lungs. These again are varied by place and time. By place is meant that the prana is held to some particular part of the body. By time is meant how long the prana should be confined to a certain place. And so we are told how many seconds to keep on motion and how many seconds to keep another. The result of this pranayama is udghat, awakening the kundalini. Sutra number 51. Bahyabhyantar vishayashepi chaturthaha. Meaning, the fourth is restraining the prana by directing it either to the external or internal objects. This is the fourth sort of pranayama. Prana can be directed either inside or outside. Sutra number 52. Tatah shiyate prakashavarnam. Meaning, from that, the covering to the light of the chitta is attenuated. The chitta has, by its own nature, all knowledge. It is made of sattva particles, but is covered by rajas and tamas particles. And by pranayama, this covering is removed. Sutra number 53. धारणासु च योग्यता मनसः. Meaning, the mind becomes fit for dharana. After this covering has been removed, we are able to concentrate the mind. Sutra number 54. स्वस्वविषया संप्रयोगे चित्तस्य स्वरूपानुकार इवेन्द्रियाणां प्रत्याहारः. Meaning, the drawing in of the organs is by their giving up their own objects and taking the form of the mind stuff. These organs are separate states of the mind stuff. I see a book, the form is not in the book, it is in the mind. Something is outside which calls that form up. The real form is in the chitta. These organs are identifying themselves with and taking the forms of whatever comes to them. If you can restrain the mind stuff from taking these forms, the mind will remain calm. This is called pratyahar. Then arises supreme control of the organs. When the yogi has succeeded in preventing the organs from taking the forms of external objects and in making them remain one with the mind stuff, then comes perfect control of the organs. And when the organs are perfectly under control, every muscle and nerve will be under control because the organs are the centers of all the sensations and of all actions. These organs are divided into organs of work and organs of sensation. When the organs are controlled, the yogi can control all feeling and doing. The whole of the body will be under his control. Then alone one begins to feel joy in being born. Then one can truthfully say, "Blessed am I that I was born." When that control of organs is obtained, we feel how wonderful this body really is. And with this, we have come to the end of chapter 2, Sadhana Pada. There are 55 sutras in many versions of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. The 55th sutra is Tatah Parama Vashyatendriyanam, meaning Pratyahar results in absolute control of sense organs. Swami Vivekananda has not commented upon this sutra.